Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Good 5 Cent Cigar Newscast. I'm Ryan Pelillo. Thank you so much for joining us. This week, we look into the drinking water on campus, learn all about the Rhody Ruckus, visit the Rhode Island State House in Providence, check out Rhody Ridiculousness, and get a federal order update with Casey Chan-Smutko. And of course, David Okula will have all things Rhody athletics covered in this week's Rhody Sports Corner. For our top story, do you drink the water from the water fountains and refill stations on campus? The Cigar's own Peyton Luiz spoke with URI utility staff to get more info on the quality of the drinking water.
On February 11th through the 13th, 2025, URI Office of Utility staff collected water samples from 60 locations on campus for analysis of lead levels in the drinking water. I spoke with Bob Bazikowski, Assistant Director of Utilities for the University of Rhode Island, for his thoughts on the water quality throughout the campus.
So the university has its own public water supply as defined by the Safe Drinking Water Act. We get our water from supply wells and we distribute that, and we comply with all the requirements of the Safe Drinking Water Act and the Rhode Island Department of Health. Okay. One of the regulations of the Safe Drinking Water Act is called the Lead and Copper Rule. That rule is very prescriptive on sampling for lead and copper. It dictates the number of samples based on the population. It dictates the criteria that's used to select the sample locations, and it dictates the frequency of those samplings. Okay. Over the past decades, multiple decades, we've complied with the lead and copper rule. We're currently in compliance, and we've been in compliance for decades. So lead was used in plumbing, okay, and particularly in solder to connect copper, but there was also lead pipes. And many communities have lead pipes. URI does not, okay? And so we adjust water chemistry to minimize dissolving that lead in the water. And that's why we test, to make sure that our chemistry isn't corrosive and dissolving that lead.
Thanks, Peyton. URI basketball has an array of fans that take their team very seriously. Some of the most dedicated students on campus are a part of the official student section known as the Rhody Ruckus. Trevor Sheehan got a chance to sit down and talk to some of the Ruckus leaders.
The screaming fans seen at every URI basketball and football game are part of a student-run organization called Rhody Ruckus. For $30 a year or $100 for all 4 years, you can join the 1,000-plus fans that bring an electric atmosphere to every home game.
Yeah, I think for me, Rhody Ruckus is a community more than anything. I started 3 years ago as a sophomore, and nobody went to the games. It was just, there was a handful of people, regulars, that like to go, but now we go to every single game, and there's consistent showing of people that love to show up, and we hang out and we have fun.
Just a few years ago, Ruckus had fewer numbers, but those who did join knew their goal from the get-go.
Joining Ruckus was a new thing. Johnny's my roommate, so that was probably my easiest look at the program. Watching him go to the games early and do all that stuff, and trying to help the team out was participating was the best thing that I could do.
Women's basketball head coach Tammy Reese and men's basketball coach Archie Miller have voiced their encouragement of the organization.
Yeah, we felt very supported by both Tammy and Archie throughout all the years. They've always been very supportive and showed the love to and really acknowledged the importance of having a solid fan base, and the student section is where the hype comes from, and having a good crowd at a game is really swing the game. It's very, very beneficial. Home court advantage is a real thing.
Outside the South Center of the Ryan Center, students can skip the line to get early access to men's and women's basketball games, one of the many benefits Ruckus members receive.
We have giveaways throughout the year, t-shirts. We did bucket hats and Hawaiian shirts this year. But just trying to, do new things to get people to come. We had, burrito giveaways this year. There was, a couple of different things that we tried to do just to get some people in the building.
Win or loss, Ruckus fans will be here every minute of the action, cheering on their beloved sports teams. I'm Trevor Sheehan.
Thanks, Trevor. Tuesday was URI Day at the State House, with students and faculty alike celebrating their Rhody pride. Kat Sheridan made the trip to Providence and spoke to some of the attendees.
I'm here at the Rhode Island State House for today's URI State House Day.
So this is our third URI Day at the State House. It's a festival of clubs, of organizations, of theater, but it's also our research, it's our extension programs, it's our education programs, and it's really a celebration of all that University of Rhode Island does, and it's really an opportunity to share with all the state legislature what we're doing here at the State House today.
For every dollar that's invested in the state's public research university, URI returns $6.25 to the state's economy. I was a finance major, but I didn't have to be a finance major to know that's a good return on investment.
I agree. I think it's nice to walk around and see everybody, see all the different groups we have, just the support really good.
Let's do one more Rhody chant. Can we do it? Ready?
Rhody, Rhody, Rhody!
Rams, Rams, Rams!
Rhody, Rhody, Rhody!
Rams, Rams, Rams!
Rhody!
Rams!
Rhody!
Rams!
I'm Kat Sheridan with the 5 Cent Cigar.
Rhody Ridiculousness took place on Friday, March 28th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. in the Memorial Union. Rhody Ridiculousness involves a group of students performing in a series of improv games. URI students gathered to watch the performance live. Reporter John Moran attended the event and experienced the ridiculousness. And now we'll hand it off to Casey Chan-Smutko with this week's Federal Orders Recap.
I'm Casey Chan-Smutko, your Federal Order reporter with the Good 5 Cent Cigar. For this week's report, I will recap the latest updates on URI's federal actions. As stated in last week's print edition, URI is under federal investigation with the PhD project under the Department of Education Office for Civil Rights, according to an email from URI Communications. While the investigation is an open matter, the evidence is not a violation of federal laws and regulations. In other news from the email, President Trump officially signed an executive order to dismantle the U.S. Department of Education. URI is closely monitoring the change and understanding the impact for our community and higher education. Additionally, the federal administration is considering travel bans for citizens across the globe. There will be restrictions and possible suspensions that may impact student travel. If you have personal questions or concerns related to international travel, two resources are URI's Global Initiatives Office and URI's 24/7 international line 401-874-4100. Lastly, Fulbright Hayes and Gilman scholarship programs and grants have been partially paused by the U.S. State Department. This impacts students and scholars at URI. The Communications Office is attending to the members in the program as they monitor the situation. This has been Casey Chan-Smutko with the Good 5 Cent Cigar. Back to you.
Thanks, Casey. Looking ahead, here's what's going on next week at URI. On Saturday, April 5th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., URI's College Against Cancer is hosting a Relay for Life. The community fundraiser will take place on the quad and directly benefits the American Cancer Society. On Sunday, April 6th at 2 p.m., TEDx is coming to URI. 10 presenters will take the stage in Edwards Auditorium to share their journeys in finding the truth. You can learn more about the event at uri.edu/TEDx. And on Tuesday, April 8th, from 4:30 to 6 p.m., the College of Business is hosting a marketing, entrepreneurship, sales and HR networking night in Ballantine Hall. Students will have the opportunity to build connections with professionals and learn about internships. With that, I'll hand it off to David Okula with this week's Rhody Sports Corner.
Thanks, Ryan. Hello and welcome to the Rhody Sports Corner,
your place for all the latest updates across URI athletics. I'm David Okula. Our Rhody Athlete of the Week is third-year baseball starting pitcher Jeremy Urania. Urania has solidified himself as the Friday starter this season by allowing 3 or less earned runs in his last 4 starts. On March 21st against George Washington, Urania tossed the first complete game in 3 years for the Rams in an 8-2 win. For more on Urania's story, here's Gerard Villemenay.
In this week's segment of Rhody Athlete of the Week, we'll be covering a man who was playing baseball since he was a child in the Dominican Republic and where he is currently within Rhode Island baseball. Third-year pitcher Jeremy Urania began his career playing Little League baseball and continued playing into high school.
Yeah, my parents, I started like Little League, just playing Little League, then from there travel ball, then obviously high school ball, and then in college.
He attended Johnston High School in Johnston, Rhode Island, where he posted impressive stats. As a pitcher, he recorded 5 wins in 11 appearances. He pitched in 50 innings, had an on-base average of 15% and 81 strikeouts. Coming out of high school, Urania was ranked the 10th best player in the state and was ranked in the top 1,000 in the nation according to perfectgame.org. Urania then committed to URI in 2022 to become the pitcher for Rhode Island.
I just came to a lot of camps as a kid, and I had a good relationship with the coaches, and from there, I was privileged enough to get an offer.
And what were those camps like?
They were fun. It was just like basically kind of like a daycare camp. Like you would come here, just play baseball, hang out with the coaches, and yeah.
Urania and the Rams traveled to the University of Massachusetts Amherst on Friday afternoon to compete in a 3-game series against UMass. Urania pitched in the first game of that series where he allowed 3 UMass runs, but at the same time striking out 5 UMass batters. Urania has a 4-1 pitching record with the team this season and currently has an 8-4 record throughout his URI career.
Just I'm a fun player to watch. I just go out there and give it all I got every time.
Reporting for the Rhody Sports Corner, my name is Gerard Villemenay. Back to the studio.
As for some other scores and results around campus this week, after dropping the first game of the series, baseball used an offensive outburst in the next 2 games to take 2 of 3 from UMass on the road. Then the Rams stayed in Massachusetts for a matchup against Boston College on Wednesday. Softball got swept by Loyola Chicago on the road over the weekend, then went to Smithfield for a midweek matchup against in-state rival Bryant on Wednesday. Women's lacrosse was unable to complete a second-half comeback in a 13-8 loss to the defending conference champion Richmond on Saturday. Men's and women's track and field both went to Smithfield this weekend for the Bryant Black and Gold Invitational, where the men placed 12th out of 16 teams and the women's team placed 6th out of 16 teams. A couple members of the women's team also took the trip down to North Carolina for the Rally Relays, while the men's team sent a representative to the Texas Relays Decathlon. Women's tennis collected its 6th consecutive win on Saturday with a 4-1 victory over Davidson to move to 3-0 in conference play. Finally, women's rowing began its spring season by taking a trip to Cherry Hill, New Jersey for the Doc Hosey Invitational on Saturday. That's all for this week's edition of the Rhody Sports Corner. To stay updated with all things URI athletics, follow us on X at @cigar_sports. Back to you, Ryan.
Thanks, David. Well, that's all we have for you this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to follow us here and on Instagram at Rhody Cigar. Pick up our print paper anywhere on campus to stay up to date with all your Rhody news. You can also find us online at rhodycigar.com. Until next time, I'm your host, Ryan Pelillo. This is the Good 5 Cent Cigar Newscast. And as always, have a great week, Rhody.